The community of Makana Municipality in the Eastern Cape is up in arms with the city officials after protracted protests over service delivery. Only a few months ago, the community made headlines when the city ran out of water. This time around, they turned on their leaders. Joining us now to explain the nature of the problem in the municipality are the Executive Mayor, Mr. Mzukisi Mphahlwa, local journalist, Ms. Sue Maclennan, and Gift of the Givers founder, Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman. A very good afternoon to all of you, and thank you so much for your time today. Perhaps let me start with you, Ms. Maclennan. The situation that we're seeing on the ground in Makhanda is really not a new one. There has been unrest over the past few days. But give us an idea of what exactly has been happening on the ground, as well as the issues surrounding this protest.
So, this is not the first time that this community has stood up and voiced their unhappiness about service delivery, broadly speaking, service delivery in the town and in the municipality. And just a correction, it's Makhanda is the name of the town and Makana is the name of the municipality, which is broader. It's not the first time they've stood up and spoken out against living conditions for, the broader population. In 2017, the Unemployed People's Movement staged a protest calling for the dissolution of the municipality. A year later, a much broader coalition of residents, of citizens, joined forces in a very big protest in the same place outside the city hall, and that was followed by a petition that was signed by 22,000 people. It delivered to Bishu, delivered to MEC following Prata's offices at Bishu in 2018. And we've seen many protests since then as well. And these are legitimate concerns, real service delivery problems. Dr. Sooliman will tell you about the extraordinary water crises that the town has faced. At times, I think Gift of the Givers first came in when the town was without water for 2 full weeks. So this is nothing new, and the voices are getting louder, and this is not what local activists have said is that this is not just another protest. This is not just another incident this past week. Some people have suggested that this is a final warning and that things really do need to change now. There needs to be concrete action right now.
And we'll talk to the Executive Mayor about the final warning in just a moment. But let me bring you in here, Dr. Sooliman, as Gift of the Givers. Talk to us about the work and the interventions that you have been putting in place on the ground in the municipality.
Good afternoon to you. We got called in 2019. It was around February. It was a Friday afternoon. We started getting messages from residents of Makana saying there's a problem with the water. And we didn't take too much notice of it because we were not aware of such a problem in the town itself. And then more and more messages started coming on Saturday. We called the municipality and they said, yes, what the residents are saying is correct. At that point, water was on and off, they said, for 3 weeks. But they said the problem stems for several months before that. There's been a problem with the water for several months before that. And that was sort of attributed to the overall drought situation in the whole of the Eastern Cape, not only to Makanda. And they said, can we intervene? The municipality asked, and they said, look, it'll take a few days. We need a few days to get our system sorted out, and we should be fine. So we said, it's okay. We brought in truckloads of bottled water, which is not ideal. But for a short-term solution, a bowl can't be drilled overnight, give you water overnight without being tested. So we started bringing bottled water in. But when we were there and looked at the situation overall, we spoke to the mayor and the municipality and said, look, we have a much bigger problem here. Bottled water is not going to solve the problem, and it's not going to be sorted in 4 or 5 days. We presented the plan to the municipality, to which they agreed, and we said, look, Our budget allows us to do a few million rand of intervention, but this requires an excess of 20 million rand to have a permanent solution, to which they agreed. And they said, they will ask for disaster funding, and when that funding comes, we just go ahead, they will fund that part which we asked them to fund. They were not going to pay us. We didn't ask for a payment for our fee, but just to pay the cost to be involved, because we were not going to fund that amount of money for the interventions required. In any case, we started drilling 15 boreholes in and around Makhanda itself. We put 7 in a place called ICYMI, where the treatment plant is. We put 3 in the university roads. We put 1 in Graflinet, not Graflinet, 1 in the Makana Primary School, 1 at the SPCA, 1 at, not SPCA, the dog unit, and we put 2 at Nsika up school, and that's what we call the super borehole. And there was 1 more we put in another area, our settlers, because we wanted to save the town from all the conferences and all that take place. That went well. The hiccups started coming in when we said, we've run out of budget, and as the municipality promised, they will pay. That money didn't come. It was then promised to some other people. And I'm not blaming the municipality. There are processes in government, and it involves a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of policy between different departments. So after they were told the money is going to be paid to somebody else, we left in May. In June the same year, we started getting many, many calls from the residents again, all crying, saying there's a water issue, please can you help? And in between, I know the municipality was trying to sort out the dam, the pumps on the east side, widening, all kinds of issues. And after 3 weeks, we said we can't leave people in this situation. We came back. We didn't get paid. We didn't worry about the money. We covered the cost. It cost us 20 million, whatever we did. But we carried on. We couldn't leave the people in that situation. And from there, we are still there. 2 years later, we are still there, assisting and trying to do what we can. We've got 3 water tankers that run all the time. Not 3 all the time in Makhanda, but in the Eastern Cape. But sometimes we have to bring water tankers from other areas. And in the last few months, water has been shutting down for prolonged periods. And we have to increase the water availability. Even the Defence Force and other people come and take water from our super borehole in Nsika. And just a few weeks ago, we decided to spread the water, spread in inverted commas, meaning we laid 2-kilometer pipeline from Nsika school to other areas inside the eastern part of Makhanda. So 9 areas of stoppage points where the community can get water from.
Dr. Sooliman, I'd like to bring the Executive Mayor, Mzukisi Mphahlwa, into the conversation now. Executive Mayor, why is it that an NGO is literally footing the bill for what is really supposed to be the work of the municipality to fulfill? There have been several civil rights organizations that have been asking what has happened to the money that was put aside for the infrastructure upgrades since as far back as 2019.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. What has happened to the money for the infrastructure? The water situation in Makana comes from 2 sources, if I may just give a brief background. The James Maclennan, which is from the Fish River, and also the western side, which is the Settlers Dam and Housing Port. The Settlers Dam and Housing Port are natural dams that are dry. We cannot get any water from there. But the James Maclennan gives us 10 million liters of water per day, and the city needs 80 million liters of water per day. So we're 8 million liters short. But government is assisting the municipality to upgrade that facility so that it can double its capacity to 20 million liters of water per day. That work is underway. It will be completed by September of this year. That is what is happening in terms of the water and infrastructure upgrade. But we're also upgrading other infrastructure, water infrastructure in other surrounding towns, such as, for instance, Riebeek East and Alisdale. And we're also upgrading the boreholes in areas such as Salem and Seven Fountains. So that is what is happening. But that work is done in the James Maclennan by the Department of Water and Sanitation. The funding is from them. But the implementing agent is Amatola Water. So there's no money that comes directly to the municipality from government to upgrade that particular facility. There's been, of course, delays that have been happening in terms of operational delays in that facility. I know that that was started a long time ago, but because of operational delays, that work can only be completed in September of this year.
And we'll continue with our conversation in just a moment. Please do stay with us. This is your daytime update right here on Newsroom Africa, channel 405, as we continue keeping you abreast of all the day's breaking and developing stories. Makana Municipality under the spotlight. You will remember that the hashtag Makhanda shutdown has been trending over the past few days. We'll also get an update on where that is. A very good afternoon to you. This is your Thursday edition of the Daytime Update as we continue our conversation regarding the situation in Makana Municipality. And for this conversation, we're joined by the Executive Mayor, Mr. Mzukisi Mphahlwa, a local journalist, Mr. Sue Maclennan, as well as Gift of the Givers founder, Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman. Let me come back to you, Ms. Maclennan. Over the past few days since Monday, we've been seeing the hashtag Makhanda shutdown trending. We've been seeing unrest on the streets, and in large part because of what the Executive Mayor was saying just before we took the break, that there have been delays, incessant delays, and the community is impatient. They're wanting service delivery, and they're wanting their situations resolved now. Now, we heard from reports that last night there was a tools down, so to speak, of the shutdown. Give us an update as to where that is.
So that there was an agreement last night. 3 MECs came to town around about lunchtime. It was MEC for Cooperative Governance, Tolele Mqata, Transport and Roads and Safety, as well as Economic Development, Mbogo and Wezi. They had been scheduled, or at least what people were calling for was the Premier to come and address them. He didn't. What did in fact happen was the MECs came, and the community had expected, and in fact, indeed, some of the organizers had expected that the MEC would come and speak to people. So what happened instead was their leadership met separately with the government officials, along with some other stakeholders who kind of joined along the way. So what ended up happening at the monument was what people inside the meeting described, and the media were not allowed inside the meeting, but people inside the meeting described it as a bit of a factional battle. So in the end, what happened was more of a political exercise, I would say, from what I've gathered from people who were there. And when the shutdown leadership reported back to people on the ground that this had happened and that they'd come to an agreement to suspend the shutdown, people were very angry. And so for that reason, we've seen continued protests in different parts of the town and different parts of the municipality. I think rather than going around and around this revolving door of protests, what needs to happen and what did not happen yesterday was meaningful engagement by those provincial government officials with people on the ground. Logistically, yes, of course, that's difficult. People were angry and restless, but in fact, I think that's what people expected and that was what was required. Since that didn't happen, I think what's required and what analysts, local analysts and people who really have their eye on the ball here say is there are three things that really need to happen. One is that government needs to work really hard on developing trust with its citizens, locally, provincially, at every level, obviously, but definitely locally. There needs to be better communication, more transparency. That's the first thing. We've seen two external parties basically flay the way things are being run in this municipality. The first was just over a year ago when Judge Efna Stretch instructed or ordered that the province must put Makana Municipality under administration and must dissolve the council. That hasn't happened. That's a court battle that's being stretched out, which will probably last until the local government elections, when it will become a moot point.
I'm going to have to come in here, Ms. Maclennan, just in the interest of time, and ask you, as the executive mayor, what the way forward is going to be now. Ms. Maclennan spoke about the importance of re-establishing trust, the importance of transparency, the importance of communication. The situation we have now is, in as much as a quote-unquote agreement has been reached, the people on the ground are not happy with their leadership for having reached that agreement, merely because there hasn't been delivery from your side and from your leadership.
Well, what we have committed as a municipality in the meeting, which was chaired by a delegation from the provincial government, was that there are short-term things that the municipality needs to do in respect of service delivery. Of course, there are also long and medium-term things. Some of the short-term things, for example, is to ensure that we get the street lights working as soon as possible. We also attempt to do some work in terms of repairing of some of the roads that we can within the short term. And also, taxi rank was an area about the issue about the toilet in the taxi rank. We committed that we can do that quickly within the next week or so, so that by the time the provincial government comes back after 14 days, we should be able to have visible evidence of some of those quick wins that we can do to demonstrate our commitment as a local government to addressing these service delivery challenges. But also we have set a committee between ourselves and the leadership of the protesters, of the community, to make sure that we monitor this progress and that the leadership is able to report back to the communities on the progress that is being made. Because we saw that as one part of the problem, there's a lack of communication between the municipality and the communities.
Dr. Sooliman, let me end off with you. Organizations such as yourself, as well as other civil organizations, what role in the meantime will you be playing on the ground while the politicians and the administrative department is trying to sort themselves out and to deliver on the promises that they say they're going to deliver? The people on the ground are still in need of those basic services.
We will continue doing what we've been doing for the last 2 years in Makhanda. provide as much water as we can. We upgraded our systems. We brought in more water tankers. We expanded the pipelines. We tried to put more taps. We looked at our filtration plants. We sorted our chemicals. We made sure the water was going well. So as far as possible, we made more water available in the same amount of time. So we will continue doing that. But we've also engaged government, and we need to make one thing very clear. I've said it on your station many times, and I've said it on other stations many, many times before. The real problem is that government doesn't understand three words: urgency, emergency, and disaster. When people want water now, you can't tell them you're sorting out things that will happen in 3 or 4 months' time. And this is 2 years that's gone already. There has to be some kind of a mechanism. There's too much of bureaucracy, too many systems that doesn't make government efficient. The government say the municipality has to make an announcement. Municipality say they have to go to the provincial government. Provincial government say they have to speak to the national minister. National minister said the premier has to make an announcement there's a disaster. So the government doesn't have an effective system of responding urgently to a need. Water is not something that you can bring in 4 months' time. People will die without water. Hospitals can't function without water. There will be all types of chronic or all types of acute and chronic diseases without water. It's something that has to be done now. And government has to sort that policy out for Makhanda and for everywhere else in the country. They have to have some government as part of a critical intervention. Government has to relook at the way it operates. How can we move things faster? They've got wine egg. We put 7 bowls there. They're only using, the government is only using 10,000 liters from those bowls. It can go up to 30,000 liters per hour. But there's still an issue of when to use that water. So there has to be a lot of new thinking to make use of existing infrastructure which can benefit the people immediately.
Ms. Maclennan, just following up on what Dr. Sooliman is saying and a statement that you made earlier on today about Makana being placed under administration, in your view and from what you've seen on the ground as a journalist in that area, why is it that this has not been why is this not materialized?
Why has the administration not materialized, or why has action not materialized?
Well, both, really. The action and it being put under administration.
Yeah. So being put under administration hasn't materialized because it's being fought through the courts. Action hasn't materialized because, and this is not me saying it, this is the highest authority in the country saying it. Parliament was here 3 weeks ago, SCOPA, Standing Committee on Public Accounts. They completely flayed the management systems and accountability processes as separate from accounting processes, but accountability and management processes within the municipality. And that is something that has got to be dealt with. Somebody's got to have the courage to make sure that people within the municipality, the administrative staff, the staff on the ground, do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. And that runs right through. So there has to be consequences, and somebody's got to have broad enough shoulders to be the bad person to institute those consequences. If it can't be done within the municipality, the province has got to step in, not only with the weight of its authority, but also with resources. This town cannot overcome its issues with the resources that it's got. It needs a range of resources from the province, from national government. But it also needs somebody to make sure that there's accountability here.
And we'll leave it at that for this afternoon. Thank you very much to all of our guests for joining us for this conversation. That was the Executive Mayor of Makana, and that's Mr. Mzukisi Mphahlwa. Also local journalist, Ms. Sue Maclennan, and from Gift of the Givers, the founder, Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman. Thank you very much to all of you this afternoon.